Ori and the Blind Forest is probably one of my favorite games to date, and some of the achievements are very hard to get, including the Supersonic achievement, finishing the game in under 3 hours. Less than 2% of the gaming population have this achievement. I am part of that 2%, and I decided, hey, I should probably help some people. I feel like being a good person when it comes to gaming, and I'm going to give you some helpful tips and tricks when it comes to Ori and the Blind Forest. But before we even get started, we should probably focus on what Ori and the Blind Forest is about. Ori and the Blind Forest is an adventure RPG, where you take on the role as Ori as he adventures the Forest of Nibel, trying to save it. With his friendly companion Sean, or Scene, or however you want to pronounce her name, they try and take on the world, quite literally. This game has many secrets. Some very hard to find, and others are more obvious. The enemies also get harder as you go along. Ori will also receive new abilities as the game progresses. You have 3 main goals in the game: restore the Genzo Tree, restore the Forlorn Ruins, and restore Mount Horu. After you do the latter, the game will be complete. However, it can take a notorious amount of time. So I've compiled a list of useful tips and tricks to complete the game in under 3 hours. And take it from me, I've gotten the achievement, so you can trust me. Need proof? Here we go. Supersonic. Finish the game in under 3 hours. I'm a tryhard, I know. We'll get into the first tip, and just a little spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't completed the game. I recommend you do that before watching this video, or at least see some summaries. In Definitive Edition, there are 2 extra areas, known as Blackroot Burrows and the Lost Grove. You will get the Light Burst and the Charge. These areas are optional, and the first tip here is don't go to them. You want to save as much time as possible when it comes to a speedrun. And doing this will just waste your time. Of course, if you're not attempting a speedrun, do what you want. Though I would recommend paying it a visit at some point. You will get some interesting dialogue, as well as new abilities. So, maybe not in a speedrun, but at some point, you should pay this place a visit. But not during a speedrun. The next tip I would recommend using is using Bash. Not just on the things you're supposed to. You can also use Bash on enemies. This will help you gain speed as well as damage the enemies, making it so you can save time in a speedrun. As you know, this game has a lot of secrets. If you've played the game at least once, you're guaranteed to have found at least one. Some secrets are more obvious than others. However, looking for these secrets can be a bit time-consuming, and when you're in a speedrun, it is recommended that you don't do things that are very time-consuming. So I would recommend looking for things that you know are on the way to one of the 3 goals. The Genzo Tree, the Forlorn Ruins, or Mount Horu. I will show you some areas where things are somewhat on the way. If you've played the game at least once, you know that there's a spider grove just after the Spirit Tree, and after you get Charge Flame. Your goal is to knock it down here. However, after you do so, there will be a secret to your left. There will also be a spider, so if you're trying not to die, watch out. There will be a life shard around that area, and it is also not too far from where you're going next. So, go get it if you feel that you need it. An energy cell you can get while repairing the Ginzo tree will be right in this area right here. Now you may be wondering, there's a wall here. How do you get to it? Well, if you've played the game, you notice you can bash off of these things, and where you go, the projectile goes the opposite way to where you go. What you want to do is bash a projectile into a log right here, which can be broken. Then you can go through this tunnel and get it. And boom, you have another energy cell. So if you feel you need it, go get it. This is another kind of on-the-way thing that you can get without wasting too much time. In the Horu Fields, in Hollow Grove, there will be an area that you can stomp down after this guy dies. There will be an area right here that you can stomp. On your way to Mount Horu, do that, and you will gain a life cell. These are just some examples of things you can get on the way to your desired location. So if you feel you need some extra life or energy, feel free to get those. At some point during your gameplay, you will reach the top of Nibel, the key to Mount Horu. Now, at this point, you will be the farthest away from pretty much everything. Now you might be wondering, hey, I'm kind of running out of time. How can I save time so I can still do the speed run? Well, just use Stomp when heading down. You will go much faster and be able to reach your goals. Be careful as there are lasers right here. But whenever you can, use Stomp to get down. It's a much faster method of getting where you need to go, instead of just floating down or falling. Be careful as there are spikes at the bottom of the entrance to Sorrow Pass, so try and be careful. If you don't feel like dying. If you don't feel like dying, be careful near the entrance as there are spikes. And there is a well down here, which you can use to your advantage. I'll get more on that later. At some point during your gameplay, you are going to encounter this area in the Misty Woods. I don't know about you, but I had quite a bit of trouble when it came down to it. It was just long, and I ran out of soul links to place. But luckily, I found an easier shortcut. You see this frog right here? Well, you did see this frog right here. You could bash off of it to get over here. And there's a shortcut right here to get where you need to go. You will have to deal with this guy though. Afterwards, you can just glide on over here, bash this guy off the roof, and then of course take care of this spider if you think you have the time, and continue on with your speedrun. Ignoring pretty much everything else down that path. One very important fact I want to point out is using wells is very useful when it comes to regular edition or definitive edition. In regular edition, it will refill all of your energy and health, so you might be able to hold your own for a bit longer than you normally would. Another use in the definitive edition is that you can warp between wells. And this can be incredibly useful in areas like Thornfelt Swamp. Now I'm sure you're wondering what I mean. Well, when you first head to the Ginzo tree, you will find that a character in the shadows has stolen the water vein. I seem to be caught in a glitch. There we go. And you will have to chase him to Moon Grotto, encountering these scary laser things along the way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's go see them. This area right here can be very dangerous if you don't know what to do. However, there is a well in both Thornfelt Swamp as well as Moon Grotto. So after you get the water vein back, you could easily use the wells to teleport between them and skip the laser section entirely. As well as getting back to the Ginzo tree much quicker. Because the one in Thornfelt Swamp is right next to it almost. All you have to do is go up this hill, and then the entrance will be right here. We can all agree on one thing. Bounce pads are extremely useful, but they can be a bit problematic, especially in areas like the Ginzo tree. You have to press spacebar at the right time in order to get some extra height. And this could be exceedingly difficult, especially if you have double jump, because you could accidentally double jump instead of pressing spacebar, causing you to jump the normal height it would cause you to jump. And this, again, can be very problematic in areas like the Ginzo tree and stuff. So I found a way where you don't have to press spacebar at that incredibly narrow window. Just stomp above it, and you will go just as high, if not higher, than how high you would go if you just press spacebar. And again, you even go higher, which of course makes it better to use than just the spacebar. This will also give you a little speed boost, meaning you will probably get to your next area a lot faster if you do this. Again, height boost as well. There is a height boost as well, and you can easily just head on with your business after you get out. And you go way faster if you use the stomp anyway. So there's literally no reason not to stomp. Unless you don't have it, of course. And that can be problematic in the Ginzo tree, because you don't get stomp until after you cleanse it. So this will not help in the Ginzo tree chase, unfortunately, but it will help in other situations where you need to pick up speed. If you've played the game, or at least seen other people play the game, then you would know that there is something called ability points. And these ability points enable you to get abilities and trick out your current abilities. You can increase the strength of your spirit flame, improve your breath underwater, all kinds of useful stuff. However, in a speedrun, you can really slow down if you stop to look for ability points. Not ability cells, just ability points. Like looking for enemies to kill for ability cells. Not ability cells, ability light. Viality light, whatever it's called. Ability shards, right. This can be a little problematic as it can use a good chunk of your time. So, I decided that, in my speedrun at least, I would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I would do both the no ability point usage run, as well as the speed run. And it worked. So, yeah, it worked. So what I'm basically saying is, ignore the ability points completely. Now, I know what you're thinking. How am I supposed to beat the game without using an ability point? Well, it's been done. And there's a normal run where you can do this anyway. There is literally an achievement, which the same percentage of people have gotten as the speedrun achievement. So what I'm saying is, if you just decide to ignore ability points, you can literally ignore enemies. You can literally ignore any spirit light that comes out of enemies, and just get the health and energy shards that they sometimes drop. Meaning, you can just ignore an enemy and not worry about getting an ability point, because you won't be getting them. You won't be using them. So what's the point? And also you get another achievement as well. Not only will you get the speedrun if you complete it, you will also get the using no ability points, the elite achievement, if you do this. Now, I'm kinda rejecting my previous advice, but I say this when possible. I mean this when possible. Is collect Spirit Light when possible. Now, I know what you're thinking, but CG, you just said not to collect ability stuff. Well, yeah, I did, but when possible, it's imperative that you collect Spirit Light. If you do get an ability point, then your entire health and energy will refill, allowing you to last longer than if you didn't. Meaning you might be able to save or hold your own against enemies or whatever you really want to do with your energy and health. However, if you are adamant that you want to use ability points, okay, I'm not stopping you. I'm just saying I recommend not using them, because they'll just waste your time. Well, not waste your time, they'll just take up your time. But if you want, I would recommend just getting the first few abilities and then not using them anymore. That way, you can still get abilities, but you won't waste too much time. You remember how I said, don't look for cells? Don't look for energy and life shards? Well, here's a piece of advice that I think should be pretty useful. Look for cells on the way. If you see a corridor, if you see like a corridor that's near, let's say, the Genzo tree where you're heading next, explore it. Why not? And if you can't get to it just yet, don't go back. But if you can get it, then get it. Like, if you can get it without taking too much time, then get it. Or if you think you can speedrun it, then get it. Because again, life and energy is very, very useful. And you will not survive with the minimum amount of energy and health. Most likely, anyway. This fact is probably well known, but each enemy has a certain way to defeat them. And there is a certain way that is quicker, and there are ways that are slower. For these big slugs right here, use Charge Flame, then kill off the remaining ones. That's at least the quickest way to me. For the little slugs that spit out stuff, not these things. For these things, you just stomp. Stomp once or twice, or sometimes even 3 times, and they'll die before you know it. The second quickest way is to use, for those big things, is to use Charge Flame and then stomp directly after. That'll get rid of any of these ones. This frog guy has a mix of things. You can spam the dash thing and it'll be pretty quick. But that's only if your Spirit Flame is strong. And if you're following my previous advice, then you might not upgrade anything. So yeah, that might be a little problematic. But if you are doing that, you can stomp, you can bash off of them and then do the Spirit Flame, because the bash will stun them and you will be able to attack them more often. There are also some spider enemies around. There's a whole grove of them at one point. And I just killed one. So right here, right? The best strategy for these guys is after you have bash, use it. These guys will usually die in one hit, in one of their own hits. There's also a red variant of them that shoot 3 projectiles instead of 1. Don't be intimidated by them, they're just giving you more ammo to use. When swimming, there will be piranhas. My strategy for these guys is use Spirit Light, and when they get close, use Bash. It will propel them away from you, and they will be less likely to hurt you. Or if you think you can kill them before they get to you, be my guest to try. For these things, these guys hang on the ceiling and then jump when you go under them. My strategy, they will not die in one hit, contrary to what I just showcased. This is just because my Spirit Flame is the strongest it can possibly be. These guys, there's really only one strategy. You have to just stomp repeatedly. Now, for the guys that hang on the ceiling, my strategy would be to hit them with your Spirit Flame and then wait for them to fall. They will try and head towards you, which is why you should probably back up. But other than that, they are not likely to hurt you if you stand back and hit them from afar. Sometimes you'll even kill them in one hit, which is exceedingly useful. Now, there are also these frog guys. I would recommend hitting them once with Spirit Flame and then using their own projectiles against them. There is also a green variant of those frogs that can be found in Valley of the Wind and the surrounding areas. The strategy remains unchanged. They just fire projectiles more rapidly and will probably take more hits to kill, especially if you're not using abilities. I forgot to mention that there are 3 other variants of the slug I just killed. The icy one, found near the Forlorn Ruins, found near and in the Forlorn Ruins. Fiery ones that are found near Mount Horu, near and in Mount Horu, and ones that fire goop that just makes little piles on the ground. The strategy remains unchanged, they just might require a few more hits to kill. Stomp will also get rid of any mounds they leave on the ground. So whenever you're dealing with one of those slimy little slugs on the ground, just use Stomp. And you will kill them in no time. In the Mount Horu fields, or grove, or whatever you want to call it, there will be these things. And to kill these, there's really only one of 2 you can only really use one of two options. Either A, lure it off a cliff and then watch it explode and then gain their courage, whatever you want to call it, spirit light. Or lure them to you and then bash them away. I would recommend the latter once you get bash. But until then, you can just use the former. There will also be a variant that will not explode on impact, found in Thornfelt Swamp and other areas. There is a slightly different strategy for those. You just spam the Stomp move for those. One extremely helpful tip, at least to me, darn ice machine, is to divide your run. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, I mean divide the time of your run. As you'll see here, you will see this in the statistics. It will say how much time you've been playing. I would recommend dividing each section of the game, the Genzo Tree, Forlorn Ruins, and Mount Horu, into hours. You have 3 hours, 3 main goals, 1 hour per each. Now if you're running a little behind, that's fine. It's not a major difference. In fact, if you want to go so far as to divide the little half points, like gaining the entrance, then you can have 30 minutes for each of these. There's 6 main goals. As you know, you can save by creating soul links, or using spirit fountains. And I would recommend doing this fairly often, but not too often. Like, if you're approaching a hard part of this place, say you're about to do some extreme parkour and you don't know if you'll do it first try, save just before that extreme parkour, and that way you won't have much to make up before you can get back. But save your soul links if you know there's going to be something even harder. I remember in the Misty Woods, I saved because there was a certain area that was extremely hard to do. But later, there was an even harder part to do, and I didn't have any soul links ready. So I was basically stuck until I finally figured it out, which took me almost an hour. Yeah, that ruined my speedrun. And this is just a little fact to get your mind off the stress of having a time limit in a speedrun. Every so often, if you remain idle for a long time, Ori will do a cute little stretchy stretch. Yes, it's adorable. That one wasn't really a tip/trick, that was more of a cute little fact to get your mind off the stress of a time limit. And I, for one, think it's adorable. Yeah, but don't remain idle for a long time in a speedrun. Yeah, that's one of the worst things you can do in a speedrun. And also just another, stress reliever fact. If you stomp here, you can literally stomp infinitely. You can literally stomp infinitely if you wanted to, but it's not recommended for a speedrun because you will remain idle for a pretty long time. If you have the double jump ability, you will be fine. Again, not really recommended for a speedrun. Okay, final little fact of the day. Well, not really a fact, this is more of a walkthrough. I'm going to show you a little walkthrough of how to get through the Genzo tree without using any power-ups that you get, afterwards. Okay, there's supposed to be a spider here that you're supposed to bash off of, but I guess the game hates me. But if the spider isn't there for some reason, I guess you could use triple jump. If you don't have it, then sucks to be you. That's a glitch, and it's not supposed to happen, and hopefully it won't happen to you. I don't know how to fix it. Again, I'm not really using any abilities you get afterwards. Ow. Just ignore that. See? There's the spider boy. Spider-Man. Ah! That's not supposed to happen. And as you can see, that would be the exit right there. Shut up. Ow! I'm sorry. It's important to remember that you never have unlimited health. Well guys, that's all the tips and tricks I have for you now. But if you come up with any on your own, please let me know. And I might feature them in a part 2. But for now, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed and if you found these tips a little helpful, even just a little bit, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and if you want, turn on notifications. Bye!